Good evening. This is KC9UDX. My name is Matt, and I welcome you to the 2 a.m. net. The purpose of this net is to promote the use of amplitude modulation and also to establish this part of this band as a place for AM activity in this area. Everyone is invited to listen. Licensed amateurs who can do so legally are encouraged to check in. We listen in the AM mode and transmit in the AM mode where possible. If you cannot transmit in AM, we encourage you to listen in AM and transmit in FM. If you are transmitting in FM, please adjust your transmit frequency a couple kCs above or below from our receive frequency. This facilitates the use of slope detection, that is, demodulating your FM signal with our AM receivers. When checking in, please announce your call sign in standard phonetics. Again, this is KC9UDX. My name is Matt, and I will now begin accepting check-ins. Any stations wishing to check in, please come now.
Good evening, Matt, W9JCC.
Recognizing our most loyal check-in, Frank, W9JCC. Welcome, Frank. Do we have anybody else that wants to check in at this point? Come now, please. Hearing none. Of course, Frank, if you hear anybody I don't hear, let me know. But we'll go to the top of the list. Frank, I wonder how your Christmas and New Year went. I'd say it was okay here. I should apologize here if I'm a little incoherent. I have been working a lot. I haven't had a day off in a couple of weeks here, and pretty much working 12 hours every day except for today. But Frank, I'll turn it over to you, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
KC9UDX, net control, this is W9JCC. Well, good evening there, Matt. I hope you're getting a little bit of rest there tonight after all the work you've been putting in. And I heard no one else checking in, but if we do, I'll let you know there. Your usual 40/9 here on the TS2000. Don't have the antenna cranked all the way up. I had it cranked down at this level, I guess, since early winter, and just decided to leave it there. Christmas and New Year's went real well. My daughter took care of Christmas Day. My older son took care of Christmas Eve, and my younger son took care of a bunch of birthdays, 3 of them on the end of the year. They were Winnie's and our granddaughter Ashley, born on the 31st, and my son Carl is on the 30th. So we had 3 of them right in a row there. So that's kind of how end of the year ended up. I got to the Hamfest here first Saturday there in January, and we had a couple of tables set up on the balcony, and we had a fair amount of traffic up there. So that's about it for this one, Matt. I'll turn it back to you, KC9UDX, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And fine business. It sounds like you were very busy with all those birthdays. I think in our extended families here, we only have a couple of birthdays in December. Nothing really close to the other holidays, so it doesn't get that busy here. And Fine business on the Hamfest. I wish I could have gone to that one. I always do like to go to that one. Of course, I liked it better when it was in the rectangular building, but it gets a little crowded in that round building, but it's not so bad there. At the very least, I like to go to pay the dues to the clubs that I still try to belong to. And I hate to say it, but I didn't. I guess I didn't realize that we had passed the time when that Hamfest is. I worked right through that, so unfortunately, I just completely missed it. I suppose the MRAC and MAARS joint one, if they're still doing that, is coming up here soon. I'll have to see if I can go to that one. That one's usually early February, I think. And I should have probably started out with this, but we are not live on YouTube this month. I am attempting to record this to put on YouTube, but I'm not sure if the camera that I'm doing that with is even working. It's very unreliable. I did start it up 7 minutes ago, I think, and I can't see it to see if it's even recording anymore. The PC that I normally do the live stream with, I made the mistake of turning it off at the end of the net last month, and I turned it on today, and it beeped twice, which means it's got some kind of error and will not boot. And I do not have a monitor for it, so it will take some serious work to get that thing to boot again. And I just didn't have the time to deal with that before the net here, unfortunately. And one other thing, I turned on the communicator 3, the 6-meter rig here. I'm not sure why. I just turned it on just to, I suppose, let the capacitor try to reform because I never turned the thing on. And something occurred to me. My son got a remote controlled car for Christmas, and it did not work. And so I dug out one that I've had here for probably 25 years, and it did not work either for the first time, which was very surprising to me. And something just now occurred to me. Both of those cars, as far as I am aware, operate around 49 megacycles, and they are digital. So if something was transmitting on the frequency that those things are listening, the digital signals would likely get scrambled and they would just do nothing, which is kind of what they're doing. And we do have a baby monitor here, which operates around that frequency range. I can actually tune that in with the GON set. And now I guess I'm going to have to unplug that thing. I'm not even sure if we really listen to it anymore. I'm going to have to unplug that thing and see if those radio-controlled cars start to work. But we are at the bottom of the list. Let's see if we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please.
Whiskey Bravo 9, Bravo Whiskey Papa.
Recognizing Dave, WB9BWP. Welcome, Dave. Anybody else? Come now, please. Hearing none, I'll send it to you, Dave. How are things going with you this month? WB9BWP from KC9UDX.
Okay. Well, good evening to whoever's all out there. I turned on here just as Frank was finishing up. So let's see, where are we time-wise? And that's probably it, I guess. I guess I'm functional here. Still doing physical therapy for my residuals from the back flare-up. I still sort of walk like a zombie, as I refer to it. Unless I think real hard about it, I'll catch myself and I'll like stop and like, okay, that's not
how you're supposed to walk. So the idea is to not have to think about it. So they still beat me up a couple times a week. Uh, just on land, as they refer to it now. We finished with the pool stuff, which really was a big help. I was almost surprised what they were able to get me to do in the water. I'm like, I can't do that. Oh, sure, give it a try. Yeah, it did. It didn't even hurt. Um, I heard you mention about the Ham Fest and the MRAC and Mars Ham Fest. Uh, once Channel 10 sold the building and we moved over to Elks Club, it got pushed a little later, and it's pushed even a little more later this year. So it'll be April 4th. Uh, and I'm not sure what the long-term future might be, as the rent over there went up dramatically uh, for such a small space. It's interesting. Um, but then again, that's why there was no testing at West Allis Amfest this year, because the rates charged just for one of those small rooms off to the side there in the round building. Everybody was like, no, we're not going to pay that anymore. Waukesha actually charges $900 for one of those rooms, which the VEC split with West Allis Club. And everybody agreed that there's other places to spend that money. And I guess kind of related to that, even where MRAC has been meeting for a number of years over at the Redemption Lutheran Church on Highway 100 Capitol there, we got a letter in December saying, the building's for sale, you guys better find another place. I know that they've been cutting back for some time. They closed their daycare and their school, and they were actually renting out a portion of, or a time slot to a Baptist church. I guess now they're just going to give up and see what they can get selling the place. Anyhow, no drastic news, I guess, around here. Anyway, we'll send it back to Net and see if there might be somebody else out there too, I guess. This is WB9 BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. Glad to hear you're doing well with the rehab stuff. When you said you walk like a zombie, that's exactly the thought I had when I came down here to start up the net tonight. I've been doing the third shift thing here now for 4 years, and I still am not used to sleeping during the day. When I sleep during the day, I do not feel like I'm rested at all. I wake up more tired than I went to bed. And today, I guess for whatever reason, I feel more tired than usual. Maybe because I slept in a little longer because I didn't go to work early. And I'm sorry to hear about the costs going up. That's unfortunate. It's something that I think a lot of people are not aware of, is the amount of inflation that we seem to have. Gas prices are low and consumer goods are cheap. But the fact is that gas prices are just ridiculously cheap. Consumer prices are driven low by the whole made in China thing. And really, everything is going up whether we see it or not. And it's going to come to a point here where things are just going to, well, I hope not, but maybe be like the 1970s all over again. And of course, it's never good to hear about a church closing up like that. But that's just another sign of the times, I guess. You wonder how some of them keep the doors open at all. And others, you wonder what goes on inside of them. They're so huge. And I did write down the April 4th date. Hopefully I can make that. Uh, I'm guessing I don't have a calendar down here anymore, which I really should get one, but I'm guessing that April 4th is a doable day for me, only because I have marked on the whiteboard here that April is a bad month for the net here. It falls in a mandatory overtime week for me. Not to say I won't be here, but it's questionable whether or not I will. And that would, I guess, mean that April 4th is probably good. But I'd have to look at a calendar to verify that. And that brings us to the bottom of the list. Do we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net? Come now, please. Hearing none, I suppose not being live on YouTube makes some people think we're not on the air here this month. Unfortunately, I've got to talk to that Bratwurst guy. I know he has interest in amateur radio, but aside from that, also, I think I have a good way to get him on the net here. I've got some extra telephone equipment now. Oh, and Frank, I should mention, I finally caved in and went with a phone line from Time Warner like you have, or Spectrum, or whatever they're called now. And that's why I have some extra telephone equipment. So I basically have a couple of private lines here that are terribly, terribly unusable for normal purposes, I guess. But I suppose I could rig up a phone patch here, and I'll have to talk to him about that. You know, that's something I suppose I should look for. Every once in a while you see these Gonset phone patches go for reasonable prices. Maybe I'll look and see if there's one of those available somewhere. That would make things even easier. But anyway, let's go back to the top of the list. Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, well, thank you, Matt. KC9UDX in the group, W9JCC. And good evening, Dave. And yeah, thanks, Dave, for the date on the Elks Hamfest there. That's when I usually try to get to. And hopefully by then the weather will be reasonable and we can get down there okay. And I always look forward to that one. I know it is a little crowded in there, but usually it's when you get to see a lot of the guys that you talk to on the air. Yeah, the YouTube thing there, Matt, I didn't even try to bring it up tonight because everybody's coming in great. I think, I don't know if you heard, I gave Milt a signal report of 40/9 as usual in here, Dave, and you're coming in S5, which is just fine. You're just armchair copy as well. So no problem hearing you. I think that's after you made some antenna changes there in the last few months. I got on 6 meters this morning. I think there was it was a 6-meter AM net. And that's one I don't get on very often, but I had a doctor appointment this morning and decided to come home instead of go to the gym. And we got on there, so I think I made that probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 times here in the last 2-3 years. So every time we get a chance, we'll get on there, unless we forget. And that happens sometimes too. I don't know if I told you or not, but we got a new garage door opener near the end of the year. And working great. There was nothing wrong with the old one except that the receiver was losing sensitivity, and I tried peeking the little capacitor in there, and I got it as sensitive as I could get it. And there were times I had to get out of the car and use the key. And now we don't have to do that anymore. So that's been taken care of. But works great. Yeah, too bad about the radio controlled. I think it's the radio interference with the radio controlled toys there, Matt. And I don't know if Dave, damage them with the RF, or whether they just didn't work when you had the RF on. And I know what you're going through there on the back, Dave. I had that about 20 years ago, and definitely no fun at all. That's for sure. I never had to go to the pool, but I tried going to the chiropractor, and after a few times there, I just gave that up. That didn't work at all. I ended up going to physical therapy and started walking, and just and that seemed to fix the problem. Uh, and okay, I think you said you just have the Spectrum phone, so you must have the Spectrum internet as well there, Matt. You might clear that up. And phone patches, if you need one, you can probably pick one up pretty cheap if you don't have one. The old Heathkit station console, I believe, had a phone patch in it, and sometimes you see those at the Hamfest. Anyway, that's about it for this go around. Back to net control. This is W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And I do have Spectrum Internet here. I've had that for, I don't know, maybe 3 years. I shouldn't even say that. It could be longer than that. I'm not really sure. uh, the only way I know, I guess, is if I look back and see how long I've been paying a bill to those guys this time around. And speaking of their billing, I had a run-in with them a while back here. They claim I was late on a payment, and I can prove 6 ways from Sunday that I was never late on a payment, and they charged me a late fee, which I refused to pay, and then, of course, the late fee kept adding up. But that is supposed to be resolved, and unfortunately, I won't know until I get a paper bill this next time around here, which is coming up very soon. They couldn't actually just cancel the late fee, which is very irritating. They had to give me a separate kind of credit, which only shows up on the bill for some peculiar reason. Now I wonder if that Heathkit station monitor, if that's the one with the that one's got a Numicron time meter clock in it. If I'm thinking of the one that you're thinking of, I guess that would be that would work too. The only reason I would try to seek a Gonset one is just to match the other stuff I've got here, but Heathkit one would work just as well too. The I may have to do some serious rearranging here to make room for something like that, but that's just the way it'll be if that's what I have to do, I guess. It would be a good use for something that hardly anybody uses anymore, and it would be a good way to get Bratwurst to join in the net here until he gets licensed anyway. And speaking of things like this, you know, that something I've been meaning to do for at least 5 or 6 years here is do a simulcast on 6 meters AM. And I don't know if I'll ever get around to setting that up, but it sure would be nice. We'd, if nothing else, we'd make it easier for Gary W9TOF to be here, and probably a few other people too. And fine business on the door opener. I take it then you didn't have the kind with the door opener that attaches to the screw terminals. I'm not sure if I have one of those or not. But I do have screw terminals for a button on mine, which I don't think are actually used because I think the unit on the wall doesn't connect to that. And you can still buy the screw-on RF receiver unit, but I suppose it's too late. You have a new opener, and you probably have a better opener anyway, so that's good. That's a good thing. And next we'll go to Dave, WB9BWP from KC9UDX.
Oh, okay. Yeah, both of you guys are coming in real good over here. noise, good signal. I guess, yeah, the antenna work resulted in the antenna being maybe a little bit less than 10 feet higher, and I guess I passed some magic limit or something there, which shortened up the path, at least to both of your stations there, because it's been very consistent ever since then. So it's been long enough now that I definitely can chalk it up not to conditions or anything. I guess that's how it works. So amazing how those kind of things happen, right? Get your antenna up higher and things work better. And yeah, 6-meter AM, since for some time now, most HF radios have 6 meters in them. And of course, not every radio does AM anymore, but still, that probably opens up a lot more possibilities there. I announced the net on other things. So far, I can't say that anybody's shown up here that from any of the other nets or encounters that I've had. Jerry K9FI should be here. He even made a point to say see it marked on his calendar. But we all miss times here and there. Let's see. I'm just looking at my list here of things. As long as we're speaking, I'll mention, since it's only a few weeks away, is the FM Simplex contest for this year is February 9th, which sounds a little early, but still after the Super Bowl. So that's Sunday afternoon, February 9th. Same as in the past as far as times and rules and such. Starts at 1 o'clock. Hour on 2 meters and then a half hour on 440 and 6, 220, and then digital stuff, mainly Fusion and D-Star. Let's see, this because of my antenna situation here and not taking things down, not getting them back up. After last year, where I got a Kenwood F6 HT, so that gave me 220 capability. So last year I was able to cover all the bands and, well, Fusion, but not D-Star. This year I'll miss 6 meters because I don't have anything really for that right now. So, oh well, that's how things work out over here. Let's see. And then I don't know if by now Frank probably heard. I don't know about you, Matt. That Kate K9MWT, she passed away a couple of weeks ago. And in fact, the funeral was same day as Hamfest. I think it was maybe that week before that when that happened. And she probably was the oldest MRAC member. She was 96. About a month before that, Jim Ott, W9LCD, passed away. He was next at 93. So I think we're down to Hans Schroeder, AE9G, who just turned 90, or turned 90 a few months ago, I think. So anyway, enough of the odd statistics there. I'll send it back to Nat. This is WB9 BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. And yes, I unfortunately, I think, read a list of silent keys from the somebody from Mars or MRAC sent me an email. I suppose you have it too. I don't know. I'd have to look to see where that actually came from now that I think about it. But it was very sad hearing about Kate. and of course Warren and Skip Voros too. Kate was a I guess I don't have the right words here. My mind is not working with the lack of sleep here, but I guess I'll say I'm just glad to have been able to talk to her on the air when I could. Uh, she'll be greatly missed, and a lot of the other people too. The FM Simplex contest, my it always seems to fall on the weekend when we have a big family get together for my daughter's birthday, but we are not doing that this year. So if I don't have to work, maybe I can participate in that, although I'm not really set up for it anymore. Uh, I guess I could sort of gather things together. I've got plenty of 220 gear. The the thing is, I've got handhelds that probably are not terribly useful for that. I've got a mobile rig that I'm looking at, which has a dead battery, and the processor doesn't like to work very well when it has a dead battery. So I'm not sure if it even works, and I really need to open that up and cut the battery out before I have other problems. And I've got a 220 rig in my Jeep, which I never use only because it's a Kenwood, and I find the controls on it extremely difficult to use. And I don't know if that's just because I'm not used to Kenwood equipment or if it's just that difficult. Uh, I'm not sure if I've ever used that at all. Unfortunately, I have to take the antenna off to get the vehicle in and out of the garage. So a lot of times I forget to put the antenna on, but even when it's on, I find the radio too difficult to operate, so I don't even try, I guess. Uh, 6 meter FM is a challenge for me. I can do it with the Gonset Communicator 3, with the VFO for the Communicator 4.